My name is Emily Carter. I'm a 39-year-old nurse from Austin, Texas. I never expected my life to become the kind of story people tell late at night, one that makes you question everything you thought you knew about life, death, and what lies beyond. Yet here I am, sharing the most extraordinary experience of my existence with you. Just a few months ago, I was living an ordinary life, working long shifts at St. Luke's Medical Center, spending weekends with my family, and trying to make sense of the world one day at a time. But everything changed on a day I will never forget. What I witnessed after I died will stay with me forever. It shattered my doubts, changed my priorities, and gave me a mission that goes far beyond my own life. If you're here searching for answers, comfort, or hope, you're in the right place. I invite you to stay with me until the end. And if this story touches your heart, please leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Your support means more than you know, and together, we can spread a message that the world desperately needs right now. I grew up in a small neighborhood just outside Austin, Texas. My childhood was full of laughter, family cookouts, and summers spent running through sprinklers with my little brother. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and I always felt safe. My mom was a school teacher and my dad worked construction. They raised me to care for others, to be honest, and to hold on to faith even when life got tough. From an early age, I knew I wanted to help people. That's why I became a nurse. I love the feeling of making a difference. Whether it was comforting a scared child, holding an elderly patient's hand, or simply listening to someone who needed to talk. I thought I understood pain and loss. I thought I had seen just about everything life could throw at a person. But deep down, I also struggled with doubt. About faith, about the afterlife, about whether there really was something more than just this world. On the surface, my life looked good. I had a loving husband, 2 beautiful kids, and a close circle of friends. But inside, I wrestled with fears I never shared out loud. Fears about death, about whether I was truly living my purpose, about the things we can't control. I want you to know this because what happened to me wasn't something I was prepared for. It wasn't a miracle I sought, or a dream I wanted to have. It was a reality that crashed into my life when I least expected it, forcing me to face every fear I'd ever had, and ultimately, giving me answers I never imagined were possible. It was a sunny Thursday morning in late March. I remember every detail: the soft blue sky, the smell of spring in the air, my favorite song playing quietly in the car. I was heading to work at St. Luke's Medical Center, just like any other day. I waved goodbye to my husband and kids, never imagining it could be the last time they'd see me alive. The highway was busier than usual, but I wasn't in a rush. Then, in a split second, everything changed. A truck coming from the opposite lane lost control and swerved directly into my path. There was no time to react, no moment to brace myself. The sound of metal crashing, glass shattering, and the world spinning out of control still echoes in my mind. People say your life flashes before your eyes, and in some ways it's true. I saw my children's faces, heard my husband's laugh, felt every joy and sorrow I'd ever known, all in a heartbeat. And then, there was nothing. Just darkness, silence, and the sensation of letting go. I don't remember the pain. I don't remember the chaos at the scene or the frantic voices of paramedics. What I do remember is the overwhelming peace that settled over me, as if every worry, every fear, every regret had been gently lifted away. It was as if time itself had stopped. I later learned that I had no pulse for nearly 8 minutes. The doctors at St. Luke's did everything they could. My colleagues, the same nurses and doctors I'd worked beside for years, fought desperately to bring me back. But in those moments, I was already somewhere else, somewhere I never could have imagined. The next thing I knew, I was floating above the chaos. I could see the wrecked car, the flashing lights, and my own body lying motionless as the paramedics worked frantically. But none of it felt frightening. Instead, there was a deep, unshakable calm, a sense of freedom and release I had never known before. Everything below me seemed so distant, as if I were watching a scene from someone else's life. I saw familiar faces, my coworkers, the paramedics, even strangers who had stopped to help, all united by a single purpose: to save me. Yet, I felt no panic or pain. In that moment, every burden I'd carried for years, fear, guilt, anxiety, vanished. I was weightless, embraced by a gentle light that grew warmer and brighter with every heartbeat. It was unlike anything words can describe. The peace was so complete, so absolute, that I remember thinking, if this is death, then there is nothing to fear. I felt surrounded by a love deeper than any I'd experienced on Earth, a love that seemed to know every secret I had ever hidden and accepted me completely. As I drifted higher, the world I knew faded away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of belonging and clarity. Time no longer mattered. Worries, regrets, and questions dissolved into the warmth of the light. In that place, I understood that I was not alone. I sensed the presence of others, souls, beings of light, watching over me with kindness and understanding. Then, just as I surrendered to this peace, something extraordinary happened. The light intensified, and I felt drawn toward a presence so powerful, so radiant, it was as if the sun itself had stepped into my path. I realized, without a doubt, that I was about to meet the one I had wondered about my entire life. As the light enveloped me, I felt myself drawn toward it. Not with fear, but with the kind of anticipation a child feels before a long-awaited reunion. The brilliance grew until it seemed to fill the entire universe, and at the center of it stood a figure unlike any I'd ever seen. I knew instantly, this was Christ. He didn't speak at first, but his presence alone spoke volumes. His eyes radiated a love so fierce and pure that I felt as if he could see every wound, every scar, every regret in my soul, and loved me all the more for it. There was warmth in his gaze, an understanding that went deeper than words, as if he knew not just what I'd done, but why. He reached out to me, not with judgment, but with a kind of embrace that melted away every last trace of fear. It was like being wrapped in the safest, warmest blanket on the coldest night, a comfort so deep I could barely breathe from the beauty of it. In his light, my life made sense. Every joy and pain, every triumph and failure, every question I'd ever asked was somehow answered in a single, loving look. "Emily," he finally said, his voice both thunder and whisper, "you are loved beyond measure. You have always been seen, always been known." Tears flowed freely down my face, tears of release, gratitude, and awe. I knew I was standing in the presence of absolute truth, and nothing could ever compare. All the doubts I'd carried for years evaporated in an instant. I saw myself the way he saw me, broken but beautiful, flawed but cherished, a child of God. But Christ had more to show me. I sensed that this encounter was only the beginning, a doorway to visions and revelations I could not yet imagine. The light around him shimmered, and suddenly I found myself transported to a place beyond time, a place of cosmic importance. The vision of the celestial battlefield, angels, demons, and the army of light. In an instant, Christ's radiant light opened a new reality before me. I was no longer alone with him. Instead, I was standing on the edge of a vast field, more real and vivid than anything I'd ever seen on Earth. The air shimmered with an energy that made every sense come alive. Before me stretched a battlefield, unlike any war zone known to mankind. On one side, legions of angels, brilliant and strong, stood ready, each shining with a light that pierced the deepest shadows. Their faces were filled with determination and compassion, as if they fought not out of anger, but out of a deep, unwavering love for humanity. Across from them, I saw forces of darkness, shapes and figures that shifted and twisted, their presence heavy and cold. These were not the monsters of fairy tales, but beings of real malice and deception. The darkness writhed and pressed forward, desperate to claim what little light remained. Between these two armies, I saw souls, millions of them. Some looked lost and frightened, caught between fear and hope. Others were shining, their faces turned toward the light, fighting with all their might to hold on to faith and truth. The sounds were both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The clash of spiritual swords, the cry of prayers rising like banners, the voice of Christ echoing above all, commanding his army with authority and mercy. I realized that this wasn't a battle over land or power, but over the hearts and souls of every person on earth, including mine. Christ stood beside me, his eyes full of sadness and resolve. "This is what is unfolding right now," he said. "A war that cannot be seen with human eyes, but that is more real than anything in your world. Every choice, every prayer, every act of love or hate, these are the weapons in this final battle." In that moment, I understood. The fate of humanity hinged on this unseen war. The forces of light and darkness were not just distant powers. They were here, now, fighting for every soul. And then, Christ began to reveal to me the truth about what was to come. What he showed me next changed everything. The great confrontation. What's really at stake before Christ's return. As I stood on the edge of the battlefield, Christ's words echoed in my heart. The scene before me was not just symbolic. It was a living reality. an ongoing confrontation that would decide the destiny of countless souls. This was the final battle, and everything was at stake. Christ turned to me, his gaze filled with both sorrow and hope. The world believes the greatest battles are fought in politics, in wars, or in the streets, he said. But the true battle is fought in the human heart. It's the battle between faith and doubt, love and hatred, truth and deception. He lifted his hand, and instantly I saw visions ripple across the field like waves of light and shadow. I saw families torn apart by bitterness and misunderstanding, people distracted by endless noise and lies, communities blinded by pride and fear. But I also saw acts of selfless love, a stranger helping another, a mother forgiving a son, a young woman choosing to stand for truth when it cost her everything. The enemy works quietly, sowing seeds of confusion and despair, Christ explained. But my light shines through every act of love, every prayer, every moment of courage. The final battle is not just a distant prophecy, it is being waged in everyday choices, in secret thoughts, in the way you treat the person next to you. He showed me that the outcome was not fixed, that every person held the power to tip the balance. Some would fall for deception, swept away by fear and false promises. Others would cling to hope, drawing strength from their faith and the light within them. Then Christ revealed something even more sobering. There will come a time, he said, when darkness will appear to triumph, when the world will seem lost and chaos will reign. But do not be afraid, for in the darkest hour, my return will bring victory and renewal. This battle will test every heart, but those who stand firm in faith will shine brighter than ever. In that moment, I saw the truth. The final battle is not about who wins or loses in worldly terms. It's about the eternal fate of souls, the choice each of us makes every day to stand with the light or slip into the shadows. And I knew deep in my spirit that what I had been shown was not just a vision for myself, but a warning and a calling for all of us. As the vision swirled around me, Christ's voice grew more urgent, more personal. His eyes searched mine, and I felt the weight of his sorrow, not just for me, but for all of humanity. Emily, he said, there are truths you must share, warnings that cannot be ignored. The world is walking a dangerous path, blinded by comfort and distraction. Many have traded truth for convenience, faith for fleeting pleasures, love for pride and division. I saw scenes play out before me, millions of people scrolling endlessly on their phones, numbed to the suffering around them. Churches arguing over petty differences while the broken and lonely slipped through their fingers. Leaders twisting the truth for power, and families torn apart by anger and unforgiveness. But the most painful vision was of people who once believed, now drifting away, their hearts hardened by disappointment, or seduced by new ideas that promised freedom, but delivered only emptiness. I saw how easy it was to get lost, to let cynicism and doubt replace hope, to turn away from the light when the world seemed too dark. Christ's voice was gentle but unwavering. Warn them. Remind them that my love never changes, but the time to choose is short. There is a spirit of deception moving across the world, lies disguised as wisdom, false prophets promising easy answers, voices that call good evil and evil good. He showed me ordinary people, mothers, teachers, doctors, students, facing moments of decision. Some chose the truth, even when it was costly. Others, afraid or weary, surrendered to the crowd, silencing the quiet voice within that urged them to stand for what was right. Every heart is being tested, Jesus said. There is still hope, but the window is closing. My people must wake up, speak up, and love with courage. Only then can they withstand what is coming. As his words sank in, I realized that these warnings weren't meant to inspire fear, but to spark a sense of urgency and responsibility. The world was changing, and the only way through was to cling to faith, seek the truth relentlessly, and let love be the banner over everything we do. The final signs. How to recognize. When the battle is near. With each revelation, Christ showed me that the world's final battle would not arrive suddenly or without warning. The signs would be clear for those with eyes to see and hearts willing to listen. I saw visions of chaos rippling through every layer of society, natural disasters growing more frequent and severe, nations in turmoil, economies collapsing, communities divided by suspicion and fear. Even nature itself seemed to cry out, as if creation was groaning under the weight of what was coming. But not all signs were global or dramatic. Many were deeply personal, unfolding in the quiet moments of daily life. A growing emptiness, a sense that something isn't right, a longing for truth in a world drowning in noise, relationships strained for no clear reason, dreams interrupted by nightmares, children questioning what once seemed certain, people everywhere searching for meaning, but feeling more lost than ever. Christ's voice was steady, both warning and comfort. These signs are not meant to terrify, but to awaken. When you see the world shaking, know that the time is near. The enemy will try to distract you with fear, with endless arguments and empty promises. Do not be deceived. The greatest sign is the stirring within your own spirit, the quiet whisper that calls you home. He showed me believers all over the world, sensing the urgency, gathering quietly to pray, encourage one another, and stand strong together. Some risked everything just to read the word or speak the truth. Others faced ridicule or persecution, but refused to compromise their faith. Do not ignore these signs. Christ urged, let them draw you closer, not farther away. The darkness will increase, but so will the light for those who seek me with all their hearts. You were born for this hour, called to be watchful, to keep your lamp burning, and to help others find their way. In those moments, I realized that the final signs were less about headlines and more about hearts. It was about waking up to what truly matters and being ready, no matter what came next. As the visions faded, Christ's presence remained, more intimate and powerful than ever. I understood now that the warnings, the signs, and the battle itself were not just for prophets or pastors. They were for everyone. Every soul is called to prepare, no matter their background, their past, or how far they feel from God. Preparation is not about fear, Christ explained gently. It is about awakening, about choosing to live every day with purpose, love, and truth. I saw ordinary people transformed as they decided to open their hearts. Some fell to their knees in prayer for the first time in years. Others forgave old hurts or reached out to those they'd neglected. Young and old, rich and poor, people everywhere began to rediscover faith, not as a distant tradition, but as a living, breathing relationship with God. Christ revealed 3 simple, powerful ways to prepare. First, return to the source. He urged, come back to me. Spend time in my presence, praying, listening, reading the word. Let my love heal your wounds and renew your mind. The world offers distractions, but I offer peace and strength. Second, love deeply and forgive quickly. I saw families reconciled after years of silence, friends reunited, communities coming together to serve. Forgiveness became the bridge to freedom and unity. Let go of grudges and bitterness, Christ said. They are chains that keep you from your purpose. Third, shine your light boldly. In the darkness, even a small light can show the way. Christ called each person to stand up for truth, to share hope, to be courageous in love. Do not hide your faith out of fear. You are my messengers, my hands and feet in a broken world. He showed me that these simple choices, made daily and with a sincere heart, would prepare anyone for whatever came. It was not about perfection, but about direction, a willingness to keep walking toward the light, no matter how many times you stumble. As I watched, I saw hope spreading like wildfire. Acts of kindness multiplied. People found strength they never knew they had. Even in the midst of chaos, faith became a shelter and a spark that ignited change. Suddenly the visions faded, and I sensed the presence of Christ drawing even closer. I felt his hand on my shoulder, gentle and reassuring. It's time to go back, he said. Your story is not finished yet. There are people who need to hear what you have seen and know that hope is alive, even in the darkest hour. With those words, I felt myself pulled through a tunnel of light faster than thought, my spirit and body reuniting in a single, breathtaking moment. I gasped for air as the hospital monitors blared and the doctors shouted in relief. I was back, alive, changed, and forever marked by what I had seen. Recovery wasn't easy. My body was battered and weak, and the memories of what I had witnessed haunted my waking and sleeping hours. But beneath all the pain was a sense of purpose I had never known before. The world around me looked the same, yet nothing would ever be the same again. At first, I tried to keep my experience to myself, afraid of what people might think. But the calling in my heart grew louder each day, a quiet insistence that this message was not just for me. I began to share my story with family, then friends, and eventually with anyone willing to listen. The more I spoke, the more I realized how many others were searching for hope, for meaning, for reassurance that there is light beyond the darkness. Returning to life after such an encounter is a gift and a responsibility. Every day, I wake up grateful for a second chance. I see the world differently. Every moment matters, every person is precious, and faith is not just a comfort, but a call to action. If you are hearing my story today, know this. You are not alone. Your life has purpose, and no darkness is too great for the light of Christ to break through. My mission now is simple: to be a witness to what I have seen and to remind you that the final battle is not lost. In the end, love wins. If you have stayed with me through this story, I want you to know that none of this was shared to cause fear, but to ignite hope. I have seen the final battle before Christ's return, not as a distant myth, but as a living reality that is unfolding even now. And I know beyond any doubt that faith, love, and truth are the weapons that will carry us through. No matter what chaos you see in the world, no matter how dark things may become, remember that the light is never defeated. Christ's love is more powerful than any force of darkness, and you are part of a purpose far greater than you can imagine. If this message touched your heart, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Tell your story, encourage others, and stand together as a community of faith. And if you know someone who needs hope, please share this video so they too can find light in the darkness. Subscribe to this channel for more stories of faith, hope, and encounters with the divine. If this message touched your heart, share it so that more people can be blessed. The harvest is coming and time is running out. Stand strong, keep your lamp burning, and remember, in Christ, we are never alone. Thank you for listening. May God bless you and keep you always.